James earns millions from internet marketing. Tim's got millions of questions. Welcome to Freedom Ocean. Now, jump on in.
Welcome back, listeners, to the wonderfully warm waters of the Freedom Ocean podcast. I am one of your hosts, Tim Reed, and on the other side of the boat is James Schramko. G'day, James.
G'day, Timbo. How are you going?
I am absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much. We have got, I'm going to start with a bit of feedback from one of our listeners, but we've got a whole lot of questions too that we're going to cover a bit of ground in the next 30 minutes or so. So the first one comes from Dave Newgas, and this is actually some feedback in response to episode 23 where you shared your Triple D strategy for smart decision making, James, and Dave, his comment was, he said, I need to tuck in and learn by my mistakes instead of trying to create or emulate the ever-perfect system. And the reason I printed this one out is it was really resonating with me when I was planning for this show. You know, that whole concept of waiting till it's perfect, waiting to find the perfect reference or the perfect plan, or instead of actually just taking action. He then goes on to say it is better to learn by doing that. It is better to learn by doing that by standing at the back of the classroom and peeking over somebody's shoulder, peeking over everybody's shoulder. I just finished an audio book yesterday called Just Build It. Have you read that?
No.
Oh, it was good. I mean, it was kind of basically pretty much saying what Dave talks about. Lukey from my other show put me onto that one. It's a great audio book. It went for about an hour and a half, and it was just kind of like, you know, take the action and you'll be amazed at what comes from it. Dave goes on to say it's okay to plan your actions as long as you action your plans. Love that.
Yeah, so that reminds me of the General Patton quote about a good plan violently executed today is better than a great plan executed tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, Action Jackson.
And also, you know, I can relate to what he's saying. It's very hard to learn how to ride a bicycle by reading a book on the subject. It's better just to, you know, get on the thing, and you might fall off occasionally.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
Yeah. In fact, there was a cartoon they mentioned in this book called Just Build It. And it was something like, I should have, if I only had it in front of me, but it was like there were two doors. One was Books on God, and the other one was Books on Heaven, and the other one was Heaven, and everyone was lining up for the Books on Heaven. Do you get that? People were much more inclined to want to read about it than actually. It wasn't a religious cartoon. It was just it was making fun of the fact that we're much more inclined to go and read about stuff than actually, you know, be in the present amongst it. Anyway, you clearly didn't find that funny.
No, I'm holding back. I don't want to lose the majority of our audience with my thoughts on heaven. There
was nothing to do with religion. It could have been books on cycling or a cycling track. You know, I think for some reason they chose the heaven, the topic of heaven instead of something else. Hey, Scott Penbury has got a question about QR codes, James. He said, can you elaborate on QR code stuff? He smelt a good opportunity in that market and would be interested in hearing your thoughts. I don't think we've given too much discussion around QR codes, have we?
I don't think so. I think they do interest me, though.
What interests you about them?
Well, the fact that, I've used them a little bit, so that's interesting. And I did travel overseas recently and saw them in shop windows in Switzerland. I saw them in mainstream magazines, in newsagent stands in the airports in America. And I have actually held up my phone to a QR code to see what's there. And I've seen them on workbooks, and I put one on my own workbook. I just think phones and things that work with phones are quite clever and will be more important, something worth paying attention to.
We've got a question here from Edmund. Edmund brought bought Traffic Grab and very satisfied with it. He then says, I have a question though. How do you rank for your podcast site, Freedom Ocean? I can't seem to rank for my podcast episodes on Google. Have you got any tips to share? Thanks in advance, Edmund.
Well, it's a pretty straightforward thing. We're using WordPress as our framework. We do put a key phrase in the page title, which is picked up generally from the post headline. And my fabulous assistant who puts the content on the blog posts remembers to tag them and select the appropriate category.
That'd be me.
So once it's up there, well, we also clean it up a little bit in the background.
You do.
And then once it's published, we get links to the posts from various places. We actually, we go and post it on Facebook and on other sites that end up pointing back to it.
Do you reckon we've made hard work for ourselves by giving our show the name Freedom Ocean, which is a much more of a brand name than it is a keyword-rich name? We could have called it the Profitable Internet Marketing Podcast or something that people are much more inclined to search around. Have we made life a bit more difficult?
Not at all. We should be having a brandable, because when I look at my website metrics, a good chunk of traffic to our websites is coming from people directly searching for that name. And if you go to Google and type in Freedom Ocean, I think you'll find that we absolutely dominate. So as people recognize our brand, as they look for that, they're thinking about it, it makes it easier for them to find it on YouTube and Facebook and Google, because there aren't many people trying to optimize for the phrase Freedom Ocean.
Now, James, a couple of great listeners from over in Canada, Tim and Debbie West. Tim West has sent us a great note just recently talking about some of the results he's been getting from listening to the show, which I thought it would be great to share, because it is nice to hear that what other people are achieving as a result of listening in on the ocean. He says, as a result of implementing some of the basic things from your podcast, I can share that getting uncomfortable has been so rewarding. Now, what's he mean by that? Getting uncomfortable, trying new things?
Yeah, well, it's part of the step of growth. You're going to have to go through some change, like when you go to the gym, which I'm sure you do every afternoon. Yeah. You lift up those weights and the muscle endures, a scenario where it gets a little bit torn and a bit ripped, and then it reacts by growing back stronger in case it has to do it again. And it just changes the whole system and rebuilds in a better way. So putting yourself under a little bit of change or some good stress can actually force a different outcome. And invariably, when you're going through these business changes and you change your mindset or your approach, when you get a small win and things go well, then that is an irreversible change. Now you know a better way. You're not going to go back to the old way.
Is there a ranking somewhere where you can find the rankings based on traffic?
Well, I don't think you'd be much of an industry expert unless you already know the top 10. You would have a clue who's in the industry. Mm-hmm. If you're in the businessy space, you'd be looking at like small business, big marketing. You'd already be listening to it. You'd know that it exists. People know that my internet marketing speed blog is a great place for that internet marketing industry. I do get a lot of blog comments from people trying to suck bandwidth off it, because it's ranked number 2 for, only behind Wikipedia for some of the top phrases.
Hey, mate, thanks for sharing. That is another episode of the Freedom Ocean podcast. Go over to iTunes, guys. If you haven't left a review, please do so, and get onto Facebook and tell us what you'd love to hear us talk about in the future, because we do listen, as we've just proved in this last episode by answering some listener questions. And thanks, James, for sharing, mate. So until next time, see you in the ocean.
See you then, Timbo.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks for diving into the Freedom Ocean with James Schramko and Tim Reed. You've just come that little bit closer to living the life you choose. Please keep in mind that the ideas, opinions, and information shared in the show are those of the hosts and do not reflect those of their past employers. And as far as future employers go, well, they're both pretty much unemployable.